Yes, hi.
How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. You look absolutely lovely.
Thank you. I have to show up and show out for you.
Um, all right, well, let's get into it. Hi, Brittany. First of all, thank you so very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to have this interview. I have been watching you for quite some time on the good old gram, as they say, enjoying your journey, and just even though we've never like officially met, just watching you in the spirit of who you are definitely resonates with me personally. And I love what you're doing for wardrobe stylists, like providing them with resources that aren't really readily accessible and available. So obviously I know who you are, but tell others who you are and how Fashion Mentor came about. So
Hi. Well, as you lovingly introduced me, my name is Brittany Diego. I am an LA-based celebrity fashion stylist, and I started out my career styling. But one thing that really got to me was the fact that so many aspiring stylists were asking me questions. And having been in their position before as a styling intern and assistant, I know that there aren't many stylists that are established that are willing to share information as far as career resources, where to get clothes, how to deal with certain situations when it comes to clients. So it got to the point where so many people were asking me the same questions. I created a blog, which I called Fashion Mentor. And within a year, that blog then turned into me hosting panels. Mind you, I've never hosted any type of events before, but it turned into panels. And now we have a 3-day signature annual stylist summit, which is right around the corner, where I basically teach up and coming stylists all the things that I wish I knew when I first got started, such as where the showrooms are. We take them on tours. I bring in guest speakers. We do hands-on exercises, and yeah, just giving them the ropes in 3 days.
yeah, actually, one of my friends attended one of your workshops. Yeah, Nancy
Oh,
Oven.
yeah, for it.
I don't know if you remember her, but she actually attended one of your events, and she loved it and enjoyed it, and she was super excited to be there, and she's like, okay, okay, like, and she's doing really amazing
That's for
work in the Dallas Fort Worth area. Um, So how did you, I mean, obviously you started out in the industry as a wardrobe stylist yourself. Like how was that like breaking into the industry? Because obviously, as you said, like not many people have resources, and I'm certain like you going into it didn't have those resources as well. So how was your journey as a wardrobe stylist into the industry?
All right, so I'm just gonna get really candid and give you like all the real spill because
Okay.
I feel there needs to be a lot of transparency in the
Absolutely.
industry. So I actually started out wanting to be a fashion designer. That was my dream since I was 10 to when I was 20.
Wow.
And once I did an internship around design, I was like, okay, this ain't it. Like this is not it for me. Like all these like yelling at sample makers and manufacturers and all that, like it's not for
Right.
me. I just want to be around clothes. I want them to be finished and pretty. I'm not trying to, argue with pattern makers. So so luckily though, the company that I interned for, they were huge. It's called BCBG. They're based here in LA. And I got to see the product from start to finish. So from pattern making to textiles to design and to styling for the ads that will eventually be on TV, on billboards, on their website. So that was my first discovery into styling. And mind you, I was going to fashion school at this point, and styling, there isn't a styling major to this day, working on that. But for now, I had to seek out internships, and I'm very privileged to live in a city where there are a ton of stylists that I could work under. But like we mentioned, a lot of these stylists, they're not trying to share information. So I interned for many different stylists, which I highly recommend because you get to see the job from different perspectives and kind of pick up, okay, this stylist does it this way, but this stylist does the same thing another way. You get to choose what works for you. But some of these bigger celebrity stylists that are more well known in the game, they really don't take the time to even learn your name. I've been referred to as the intern, and
Wow.
there's been situations where I had to fight to get gas money and like parking. And, after you just finished college, like you don't really have money like that. So
Right,
it was a
right.
real struggle. Yeah, it was a real struggle when I first started out. And it got to a point where one particular celebrity stylist, who we won't name, but she made me want to quit fashion
Wow.
altogether. And it was just a horrible experience. And the major thing that really saved me was when the stylist who I had reached out to the previous year, she ended up emailing me out the blue. Like I thought she forgot about me, but I kind of kept following up with her via email, which is a tip that I recommend for everyone. I find that a lot of people will send an email, and if the person doesn't respond one time, they're like, okay, they hate me, I give up. But people are just busy. So
Yeah,
I
right.
emailed this particular stylist in November of 2016, and she didn't respond back to me till February 2017. And so, of course, I thought she forgot about me, but she was like, hey, are you still looking to do an internship or assistant role? And I said, yes, like anything is better than this. And she was a stylist for TV and film, and she ushered me really into that sector of the industry. And she exposed me to different types of styling that I normally wasn't actually interested in, but I learned a lot, such as menswear styling. That's how I really got my start. But she knew my interest was in women's wear and high fashion and celebrity styling. So she really let me get my feet wet. And she was a true mentor. Like instead of me having to ask her for $20 for gas or however much it was back in 2017. But you can't fill up your tank for $20 now in LA, I'll tell you
Right,
that.
right.
But she asked me, she was like, hey, what's your Venmo? So I could send you some lunch, like a lunch stipend. And I was just like, oh my God, there's actually people out here who are willing to teach you, take you under their wing and support
Right.
you. And I just remember that feeling. And I wanted to be that for other people.
Oh, I love that. I love the fact that one, you receive that yourself, but then, as I say, paying it forward to other people and
Yeah.
wanting to do that to other people. And obviously you've been, wildly successful with being able to do that. Could you tell us like what does a typical day for like Brittany Diego um as a wardrobe stylist and now, the fashion mentor, what does that look like for you?
Ooh, so there's really no typical day for either. As a stylist, as know that it can range from fitting to polls to returns to meeting with clients, consultations. So that's what I really love is it never gets old. There's always something new happening and it doesn't get routine or boring, which I really appreciate. And there's always, new clothes in the showrooms and you get the opportunity to build new relationships and connect with all these amazing people. So that's what I love. As far as fashion mentor, it's the same story. I could be teaching a class, which is one of my real passions that I've discovered in this world is just sharing and passing down and paying forward this information that I have in my head, and I just want to pass it down to people. So that can range from meeting, event planning, which I'm in the midst of for the upcoming Stylist Summit as well, doing interviews like this and podcasts, just a ton of stuff, recording videos. I have a YouTube channel as well. So it's just kind of all over the place, but I love it because it keeps me on my toes.
Right, right. What's been the most challenging thing for you thus far, and how have you been able to overcome like that challenge?
That's a really great question. I would say, and I was actually thinking about this earlier today. The most challenging part would definitely be not having as much support as I would have,
Mm.
especially when I started out. And I feel like a lot of people can relate, especially when you start a business. You expect everyone around you to kind of, hype you up and be supportive, and that's not always the case.
Right,
So
right.
with Fashion Mentor, I remember seeing a post on Instagram that said, "Oh, you post like Drake and Rihanna, but you won't post your friend's business." And that is so true. So learning not to take that personally has proved a challenge, and just remembering that, my friends or, acquaintances, mostly acquaintances, are not necessarily like my target audience. So I can't expect them to want to repost everything because it has nothing to do with, what they're doing. But
Right,
just noticing also that, you know, people don't really support until they see other people co-signing you, which
right.
is an issue within itself. It's like, oh, so and so posted you, so now I'm gonna post you, but it's like you should have been willing to do that without someone who has a million followers posting me first, So
Absolutely, yeah.
little things like that.
No,
Yeah.
I love the fact that you brought that particular, issue up because I can deeply relate to it. So I completely understand what you mean. And it's definitely, difficult to get, that support. But I very much like yourself, I have to recognize not to take, too many things personal. And just to realize that, I think Ty Hunter, he posted something the other day basically saying that, it doesn't matter if, a big celebrity or someone like signs you, like, like posts your information, whatever the case may be. If you're still working in the industry, you're still working in the industry. Like if you're doing the work every day, you're still doing the work. And it doesn't mean that you're any less, talented because you're doing the work every day. You're still working towards
Exactly.
something. I love the fact that you brought that up and mentioned that. So what keeps you inspired to do the work that you do and to reach so many people?
Wow. I am just constantly inspired by the ability to transform and really change the trajectory of people's lives and career paths. So some of the people that I've mentored and had come to my classes, they were in unfulfilling careers. I had one student, she was a nurse for 20 plus years. She has a whole family, a husband, but she's always wanted to be in fashion, but her family didn't support that. And she finally circled back around to it. And now she's working with huge celebrities. Like, I was gonna say one celebrity, but he's in like the midst of a legal thing, so I don't want to mention it. He's a Canadian singer, and but just seeing them go from not knowing anything to working with superstars, having their work on the Grammys and Oscars just this year. One of my students assisted for the Met Gala. Just seeing those moments really keeps me going because, sometimes things are not easy. And just seeing their success, it just makes me feel confirmation like, okay, this is working. This is actually, a thing. And that definitely like keeps me going.
I love that. I love that you like desire to inspire other people and that you've been doing such like a great job doing it and being able to stay motivated. If you had
Thank
some like I guess best tips or practices, maybe like just a few, because obviously like you get paid to give this information. Like what are like three, like major tips that you would give to someone like who's an aspiring wardrobe stylist and wanting to get their big break into the industry? And before you say, your three tips, my first tip is going to be like, yo, check out Fashion Mentor. Like that's my first tip. Like definitely check out the program.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I would say the biggest tip that comes to mind is get your feet wet. I have all of these blog posts, YouTube videos, interviews, et cetera, all out there. And yes, that's valuable and it's going to help you, have a leg up once you're actually in the situation. So you can binge all this content, but you have to put it into action. And that's the number one piece of advice I would give, because you can watch people on Instagram, on TikTok, but nothing compares to you actually putting in the work. And you never know if you're going to like something, you see on the internet
Actually,
until you actually do it, So that's my biggest piece of advice. Of course, continuously educate yourself on the industry. I have my books also, shameless plug. Get to know the designers, get to know the key players in the industry, learn how to pronunciate things, learn how to know your fashion references. If I say I want Farrah Fawcett or Grace Jones, you better know who those people are. And I find that a lot of people, because we have everything at our fingertips these days. They don't feel like they have to study history, but it's so important that you know everything, like be well-rounded in this industry. Don't just know what's happening now, know what's happening in the past, what happened in the past, because that could then lend to the future. So
Right. I love that.
definitely education.
I love
Thank
that.
you.
I love the fact that the two main things that you put forward were like, obviously getting that education and pulling together the resources, but even more after that, that's only one part of it, is just the application and applying the information that you've learned. I completely agree with you about how valuable it is. And with regards to history, like you said, so many people come in terms of what we do, and they're like, "Oh, I want to be a model, make me a model." And then you ask them some basic questions. You say things like digitals, and they're like, "What's that?" Let me see.
Oh, Lord.
I was like, I don't know that you necessarily really want to be a model because you haven't done like the
I'm
base,
ready.
right? The base minimum of information, and we live in the information age where literally it's accessible at your fingertips. So if you don't know that, I don't know that you cut out for this, So
And I do want to add one more thing too. As far as
absolutely.
stylists, if you want to become a stylist, I say try every type of styling, because when I first started out, I don't know why, but I had it in my head that I had to be a stylist for TV and film. And once I got into that, I was, lucky enough to get opportunities at Fox, the CW, BET, MTV, done it all. And I was just like, okay, I've done it. Get me out of here. Like, this is so much. Like, they are, when you hear people talk about 12-hour days, you might think they're exaggerating, but no, you really have to be up at like 6, and you're not going back home until like 10 p.m. Like, productions are hard work. Respect to all the costume designers and the wardrobe stylists for productions. It is very intense. And I know I need like 10 hours of sleep. So that's not the life for me. But I prefer more fast-paced types of styling, like celebrity styling. But some people might not like that. They might not like having to deal with their agents and managers and, their people. I like that it's just like we get in, we do a fitting, you go on the red carpet, I get my photos, and we're done. We're not waiting for photos 6 months later, as the case is in, let's say, an editorial. So get
Right.
to know the different types of styling and the pros and cons of each kind.
Yeah, I love that. I love that tip. Great tip. What are some of the brands, like you kind of already mentioned, but what are some of your favorite brands that you worked with, or maybe even some of your most memorable clients that you worked with?
Ooh, I would say one of my most memorable clients, well, I have two at the top of my head, Draya Michele and Karen Civil, because they're not both, I mean, they're both wonderful businesswomen. And, now having my own business, I just admire being around them and learning so much that when you like pick up from just being around a person by
Right, yeah,
osmosis. So learning how to operate, how they carry themselves, those are things that I really admire about them. In one particular moment, that comes to mind is working with Draya when we did that shoot that ended up on BET.com. She had this vision for like a 70s type vibe, and we played Rick James all throughout the photo shoot. And I don't know if you know the song Fire and Desire.
of
You know
course.
Fire and
I was
Desire.
like, of course.
I'm like, Fire and Desire.
Right,
With Rick James
right,
and Tina Marie. If y'all don't know it, look it up. It's a really good song.
right.
But when Tina comes in with the high note towards the end of the song, Dre looked at me and she was like, "Are you gonna sing it?" And it was just such a funny, fun time, like singing Fire and Desire with Drea. Like,
Awesome. Yeah,
these
that's
are things that you can't plan for, and it's just like a fun memory I have.
great. I love it. I love it. Well, Brittany, again, thank you so much for your time. We have a few more minutes left, so tell the people where they can find more about you, where they can check you out and get in touch with you and learn more about your fashion mentorship program.
Absolutely. So I'm very active on Instagram. You can follow either my personal or my business page. That business page is fashionmentor.co.co, which is also the name of our website where you can find blog resources. I have a bunch of tips for aspiring stylists and career resources. So you can find that all there. And if you want to connect with me personally, I'm at Brittany Diego. And I look forward to meeting everyone, chatting with everyone. Feel free to send me a DM or an email. I'm here for you.
And I can attest that she is actually responsive. She will respond to your messages.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. I'll try to
My
help
very
out.
last question actually is and correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe you were part of Forbes 30 under 30. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, I am. Class of 2023.
So about that particular moment, how big was that for you, and how much of a milestone is that for you in terms of your career, and what does it mean to you and for you?
Oh my gosh. So this has been on my vision board since I was 18,
Wow.
since the list first came out 10 years ago. So it's always been something that I picture that I wanted for myself because it kind of means like you quote unquote made it. And in my mind, but even though it has happened, I still feel like I have a long way to go and a lot more to do and contribute to the world. So I'm super grateful, and it has immediately welcomed me into this community of innovators and just big thinkers in their industry who other people I could learn from. And I'm just so grateful for this opportunity because now having that Forbes cosign, it can open the doors to helping and impacting many more people. So I'm very grateful and thankful to be now on the Forbes list.
Well, congratulations again on not just the Forbes list, but everything that you're doing, just on the spirit of who you are and making such an impact with your gifts. So, thank you so very much for that. I look forward
Thank
to learning more about your journey, continuing to view more about your journey, and hopefully sometime in the near future, we work together, do some things.
you. Oh, good. I would absolutely love to. And thank you so much for having me on and for this amazing opportunity to share my story. I appreciate that.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Thanks for watching F State TV. For more information, visit the fstatemag.com.